One of my fondest memories of Bobby Orr has to do with both Orr and Fisk, and I'm driving the car with both of them in it. Orr's in the back seat, Fisk is in the front seat. You know, it's not lost on me. I'm the chauffeur for the two guys that probably had the two greatest moments in Boston sports history at that time, the Fisk home run in 1975 and the Orr goal in 1970 on Mother's Day to win the Stanley Cup. Those are pretty good moments, and video moments as well. So it's not lost on me. I'm driving back. Just think about it. Put yourself in my position, okay? Be me. I'm driving. I got Fisk and Orr in the car. So I get to probably on Braintree, and we talked about a lot of conversations. We didn't talk much about relationships, but what guys talk about relationships? Not us. So we talked about a lot of stuff. We get to Braintree, and I said to those guys, I said, I got a question for you. God forbid that I'm driving and this car should go off the road and the three of us got killed. What do you think the Herald headline would be the next day? That's my question to them. If we all got killed in this automobile accident, what would the Herald headline be? And I said, well, don't worry, you won't be in it. And then Fisk said, well, you probably won't even make the story. Okay, so that's who these guys were. You know, we could talk and joke about a lot of things, but that was pretty good. That was a pretty good insight to who they were. And it's one of my favorite Orr stories of all time. Yeah, I got to know him. He was so shy, bashful, so deferring, so, besides being so effing good at what he did for a career playing hockey, he was just such a great guy. However, there was a side to him, as Dick Johnson of the Sports Museum told me, as I asked him who was the toughest guy on the Bruins with all those. Was it O'Reilly? Was it, Winsink? Was it Jonathan Secord? He said the toughest guy probably was Bobby Orr. Nobody wanted to fight Orr, ever. Believe it or not. So he had that side of him. And that side of him, I think, carried over to his personality, because if you crossed him, you're done. It's that simple. If you made a mistake in dealing with that relationship, forget it. Which was a pretty interesting character study. He was never the hockey player. He was the person. He was beyond what he did. And most of the guys that you really remember are beyond what they did. Once they get out of that locker room and that fraternity house that they live in, baseball players especially. But once they get out of that and you got away from what they did, you got to find out who they really were. It made a big difference, because they are not what they did. They are who they were. That's the great takeaway for me. It was a kind of a study in character. Unlike Ted Williams, Orr had a sense of who he was as a human level. Ted didn't care. You had to take Ted the way he presented himself. I think Orr cared. Ted didn't care what people thought of him, which kind of was endearing. Orr did care what people thought of him, which was also kind of endearing. It was really, it was, I guess, if you're going to sit on a psychiatrist's couch, there's a lot of material there. So, yeah, they didn't care, but they did care. It was fascinating. There's the athlete and there's the person. And in Ted's case, I think they were one and the same. In some of the other cases, like Bobby, they were not one and the same. They were totally separate. I remember when his mother came to see him play. One time, the only time that she came down from Parry Sound, for whatever reason. I remember he told me that. He says, my mom's here tonight. You know, and I thought it was a regular, you know, who knew? I thought it was a regular thing, but that's what happened. Yeah, he was like one of the Greek gods. He was just very private. You didn't go into his private life. You didn't ask him about it, and he didn't volunteer anything about it. So, you know, you just go with what people want you to know, and Orr was very private about his life off the ice. But I know that he was an extremely proud guy, and he cared a lot about what people thought of him. I think as a fan, what I want to know about Bobby Orr is that for some reason he ended up playing in my city for my team, and it was the greatest gift I ever got. That he ended up here in Boston playing for the Bruins and was as good as he was in all facets of the game, that there'll never be anybody better, and that it's universally known that he was the best and probably will always occupy that position. And that fans universally, anytime you ever talk to somebody that has met Orr, say he's such a great guy. Such a great guy. And he was. He would do anything to help his friends. He's very generous, very caring, and very good at what he did. I think fans need to remember that, but they do remember it. I don't need to tell them what they need to remember. You ask any fan about Bobby Orr, they say, yeah, I've heard he's really one of the best guys around. And they're right. Fans are very lucky that they've had him. They're very lucky to have had what they've gotten, whether it was Ted or Larry or Russell or whatever. Think about it. For some reason, we've been really fortunate over the years to have these great athletes come generation after generation after generation, maybe starting with Ted Williams and ending with Tom Brady. And it's not done yet, not by a long shot. But you know, you go from Ted to Orr to Russell to Bird to Brady to you know, how fortunate have we been? Now, we don't even go back to the turn of the century, 1900, when these teams were formed, and all the great players that played here before. You know, why can't we get players like that? Well, we got them. We had them. Too bad, rest of you.